name's Tami Egonu and I'm going to be reading Chapter 2 from A Rhapsody of Dreams. The country lane was so very quiet. A woman walked alone with her hands in her cardigan pockets, slowly as if displaying that she had all the hours of the day to enjoy at her leisure. Light brown freckles dusted her nose and fell across her high cheekbones, which were naturally rosy. Summer had not produced enough sun to maintain her tan obtained from a long trip abroad, though she looked healthy and there was an inner glow that sparkled in her sapphire-coloured eyes. Her straight black hair was cut to the shoulders with a severe fringe a half-inch above her eyes that suited her face. It had rained all night and she now walked through muddy puddles in designer-patterned Wellington boots. Unseen animals could be heard foraging in the undergrowth, and birds attacked worms and pecked at the shells of snails and ate the inhabitants greedily. Even after almost a year of living away in near isolation, Molly Scott was the most happiest she had ever been. Out here in the Yorkshire countryside, she had been better able to grab onto life in order that it might start to make sense. A divorcee at 36, with one beloved child of 11 to care for, she had never sank as low as when her marriage finally fell apart. The thread, which she later realised was always fragile, had begun to unravel soon after she gave birth to her son. The extra weight had not been easy to lose and she was too exhausted from looking after the baby to have sex. Molly had always had a gift for knowing when people lied, especially her husband Justin, and when she could no longer stand how she ignored her own suspicions of his infidelity, she decided enough was enough. Fields dotted with red poppies sloped down into valleys on either side of a narrow road, where stone cottages with grey slated roofs were nestled. In the middle distance were green and brown fields, and she could just make out stacks of rectangular hay. Trees and hedgerows marked out plots of land, and low stone walls with moss and ivy travelled far into the distance. Layers of grey moved languidly above, and she knew it would rain again. A wind suddenly came to life and whistled like an out-of-tune flute. It pushed, shook, or lifted whatever was in its path. Molly loved rain. She loved the magical tunes it created on skylights and the tops of bins, and often fell asleep to the sound of it with Ryan in her arms. Those were precious times for her, when her son was so close that she could feel his heartbeat in sync with hers. He was growing too fast, and she knew the time would come when he would move away and begin his own life, filled with adventure, she hoped, and passion and love. But for a while longer he still belonged to her. She approached a small chapel to her left, which always appeared so forlorn, apart from weekends when it came to life with wedding ceremonies. The cemetery that cradled it was filled with old tombstones dating back to the 1700s, the inscriptions mostly faded by weather. Molly remembered playing as a child in a park that had once belonged to a church, where she jumped from gravestone to broken gravestone with little consideration for the souls long departed. A spit of rain landed beside her mouth and another burst of wind erupted from out of nowhere. A flock of starlings caught her attention, and Molly observed how they spiralled and swirled with graceful artistry. She remembered the very first time she had witnessed the migration of geese, standing out in her garden under a blue September sky. Their vociferous babble had confused the hell out of her until hundreds flew right over her rooftop like a scene out of a doomsday film. Molly had certainly never witnessed anything like that before, moving out to the countryside. A memory scent suddenly engulfed her, and she inhaled figs still to be plucked from trees, and remembered swimming in crystal clear waters, and saw the rented white villa with bright blue shutters that was so typically Greek. During those blissful weeks away, Ryan became near inseparable from a boy who lived in a local village, whose lively family held a party for them when it was time to leave. Molly smiled with the memory of a language understood through dancing, laughter and tears. The scent of figs vanished, leaving memories to linger. Walking onwards to where there was a fork in the road, she veered to the right and strolled down a long driveway beneath a canopy made by tall trees with long green fingers that touched in the middle. When it was sunny, light filtered through the leaves and made them glow and cast patterned shadows on the ground, but today it was a bland light that drained colours. Breathing in earthy smells, this part of her morning walk was her favourite. Molly skirted round dark pools of water and trod over faded tyre tracks. It was not the way home, but always she was drawn to a Georgian house that seemed to have cast a spell over her. Molly could see a window in part of the main front door, which was corn blue in colour, and as she drew ever closer, more details became prominent. There were 9 windows in all. Lace curtains yellowed with age and sunlight hung at the bottom of 4 windows, whilst the top ones were exposed completely. To the right of the front door was a dirty white metal bench which, like the house, had seen better days. The guttering needed clearing of leaves, and the once white paintwork, seen between out-of-control ivy, was peeling and grey. Tall weeds needed uprooting, and the house had an overall appearance of absolute neglect. The romance of the imagination always gave way to dreary reality, though there was something rather magical about the place, enough for Molly to keep being pulled back again and again. She had discovered it quite by chance some weeks before, when rather than going straight along the path that would lead back to her little car, curiosity led her a different way. There was no for sale sign, and the only indication of life that crept out from inside was a plate of milk for feral or tame cats. Molly saw the blue and white plate that had been licked dry and had yet to see the cat whose thirst was satisfied. A gust of wind tore furiously along the lane as if it had found her again, attacking trees and invading burrows. It rode with a seeming determination to take hold of the house and lift it from its foundations. Molly immediately closed her eyes against flying grit and small flies and turned her back, but it spiralled all about her. Her hair flew and she lifted her hands to her face. The onslaught had come out from nowhere, and when she happened to glance at the front door through splayed fingers, she noticed something unusual. The door was open. Barely a sliver before, the wind slammed it wide. And in an instant, before rational thought had a chance to shake sense into her, she ran up the stairs and into the house. It's the end of chapter 2. Thank you.